Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be in the garage and we're going to be wrapping this Sun Dolphin kayak in plastic. And it is cold outside today. I think we got down in the 20s last night, and for Northern California that's kind of ridiculous. But anyway, this is a Sun Dolphin 9-foot kayak. We're going to be wrapping it in this Husky 3.5 mil plastic. On my last video I did some experiments with different kinds of plastics, trying to figure out which one would be the best for this particular application. If you go online, you can find actual boat wrapping heat shrink material, but it's super expensive. Most of it's $150 to $200, and you'll get enough to wrap one, maybe two boats. So therefore I'm going for the cheaper option, regular good old plastic, and see how well this works, how long it lasts in the out in the ultraviolet, the sun, and the windy conditions that we have here. We'll see how it goes. Probably do a follow-up video later on, just detailing how well this held up in the weather. And yeah, so let's press on. All right, so one of the first things I need to figure out is how I'm going to lay this plastic out. I know that I have a 10 by 25 sheet of plastic. I know that my kayak is 9 feet long, but I don't know what the circumference is of the kayak at the biggest point. So the way to figure that out is take a piece of cordage, loop it around highest, biggest point, mark it off some way, however you want to do it. I'm just going to use a piece of tape to mark the length of the rope. And I'm just going to measure the rope. Comes out to about 6 feet 3 inches. So the best layout for this will be to roll out the plastic to about 11 feet. And then the diameter should be way more than enough to get all the way around. And there's going to be a little bit of waste, but I think that's kind of unavoidable. Yeah, let's start rolling it out. So I'm laying this out to 11 feet. I figure a foot extra at each end should be more than enough. Whenever it starts shrinking, obviously it's going to shrink down, and you need to have some extra both around and at the end, so as it shrinks you don't have exposed areas. I know that this plastic actually does pretty well with bonding to itself, so if I do wind up a little short, I can always just cut a piece off and cover that up. So now the next thing I want to do is drape this plastic over these sawhorses, get it opened up a little bit, and get the kayak centered on the middle of the plastic. That way I can loop it over and kind of work the seam on top. I'm going to be using just a little bit of 3M painter's tape to kind of hold the plastic in place. They do make a heat shrink tape that I did order because it's not too terribly expensive. It was like $11 for 180 feet. I'm waiting for it to get here, but I'm really impatient. So I'm going to just press on with this and pull this off as I go. All right, so as I said earlier, this is going to be way too long. I'm actually going to cut off a large chunk of this to get it down to more of a manageable size. Basically what I'm doing is using the permanent creases that are left in from how they folded it and rolled it and everything as kind of a guideline to keep everything somewhat straight and even. So I'm just going to use this seam, this fold right here, as my guideline to trim this down some. Now that we have that trimmed down, we'll kind of get the rest of this in place. I got about 6 inches of overlap at the widest point. So the other thing about this, especially at the ends, is I might be able to like roll this around 2 or 3 times, but I don't want to go too crazy because when you keep building up those layers and layers of plastic, you're turning your plastic from 3.5 mil to 7 and so on and so forth. So I might trim some of this end pieces down just to remove a little bit more of this excess. Now I'm having a revelation of if this is sitting outside, it will be exposed to rain as well, although we don't get a lot here, but we do get rain. How these folds and seams are done is important because you might be trapping a lot of water inside of the plastic, which is going to just mold and become a mosquito haven come springtime. So now I kind of got to rethink this again. So I know while it's fun watching an old man trying to figure out how to wrap a Christmas present, it's kind of boring. So what I'll do is finish wrapping this thing up, and when I get it all wrapped up, I'll come back. Hey guys, you might have noticed a little change in what was just happening a second ago. The fact of the matter is that I was using some borrowed equipment that I had to return to record the video, and it's actually about a week later now. So I turned the kayak around. I went ahead and finished the backside of the kayak, flipped it around. What I learned was from doing the backside, if you have too much plastic back there, it's just going to take twice as long, and you're having to add a lot more heat, which could damage anything that you're trying to wrap. So in order to mitigate that, I actually spent a lot more time actually off camera trying to wrap this better so there wasn't so much extra plastic around the ends of the kayak. I think that will actually help improve how tight it makes the plastic and how quickly we can actually get this done. So it will save you some time in the long run if you go ahead and try to get the plastic to fit better before you start shrinking. I never did get the shrink tape in, so I'm just using a regular painter's tape. It works really well as far as being able to remove it after you're done. It will want to pop off once you start adding some heat to it. But otherwise, it does actually a pretty good job of keeping the plastic fairly tight against the kayak, making it a little bit easier as you go along and start shrinking everything, which is about the point that we're up to. We're going to start shrinking this down again. And we'll get you a closer look once I get done shrinking everything down. I think one of the things that I have learned is to get all these seams done first. It actually helps close up all the gaps, obviously, but once those gaps are closed up and it's all attached kind of on a permanent basis, as it starts shrinking, it actually gets tighter. If you start shrinking elsewhere, obviously, it's going to pull those seams apart. So you want to get those seams done first. I'm actually amazed at how well this is working. I don't know how well this is showing up on the video, but this crinkling effect that's happening is actually what is causing the shrinking. And as it cools off, it kind of stretches a little bit and takes out some of those crinkles. I know if you have the right stuff to do, so if you have regular heat shrink wrap, you don't get all this wrinkling effect in there. It looks much nicer, but this is actually quite effective. I'm going to guess and just say that this is going to be as equally as effective as the regular professional shrink wrap that you can get anywhere else. Just this is a third of the price at the most. Alright, so we got all of the seams sealed up and connected, and I'm going to go ahead and use this on the higher setting to just kind of go over the whole bottom side of this and shrink it up some. Then I'll be flipping it over and doing the same thing on the other side. Yeah. There's kind of an interesting effect going on here. So as you heat it up, it actually expands and gets loose. And then as it cools off, it contracts and tightens up and gets really tight. It works really well. Also, I recommend, like, don't hold your heating device in one spot for too long, because you'll definitely have the potential to overheat something that you have underneath. Keep it moving for the most part, but I think as you get kind of used to what it takes for each area to get it to where you want it, you just get better at it. You just kind of know how much time you can leave it in one spot and move on to the next, and so on and so forth. So I'll try here and get a better close-up of what exactly is happening. Kind of see how as it cools off, it shrinks up, pulls out a lot of those wrinkles. I think it'll get it even better once I do the far side over there. I can't reach it from this side, but yeah, pretty cool. I'm just going to keep pressing on with getting this whole thing shrunk down. Alright, so now I got everything heated up, shrunk down. There's a couple areas that I'm concerned about that have like maybe small holes in them. So I've got a bunch of extra spare plastic that I cut off of this when I was getting it wrapped up. I'm just going to use that to do a couple little patches. Here, let me show you one that I'm talking about. So that hole right there, needs to get filled up. I'm concerned that as it sits like it is, as rain comes down, wind blows, it'll go in this hole, and I get my finger pretty far in there. It feels like it might all be sealed, but just to be sure. All right, there we go. Now, as you can see, the hole is gone. Well, it's at least covered up, so nothing will go in there. I'm going to give this thing a once over, make sure there's no more holes anywhere here. If there are, patch them up. I'll get this thing flipped over, and we'll do the other side. All right, so I'm going to flip this over, and then we'll do the other side. This is already pretty tight on this side, but I think it'll be even better once we get her all shrunk down. Hey guys, so I lost some of the video for the end of that wrap, but what I wanted to do is go out and show you exactly how it looks when it's all finished. It's actually been outside now for about 3 weeks, just sitting in the weather. We've had some rain, had some sun, had a little bit of wind, had a little bit of everything, but it actually turned out pretty good. So anyway, here, take a look. So on the next video, we're going to be wrapping my other kayak. But before we do that, I want to redo all the rigging and everything because it's pretty old, pretty gnarly. Been beat up by the sun and the weather and kids and dogs and everything else. So stay tuned for that next video and we'll catch you then. Bye.